Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava, Radhe, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Mayapur Sashi, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Mayapur Sashi, Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Iskon Guru Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Taiko Primanandi. So, we're reading from Srila Prabhupada Linamrita, chant Hare Krishna and fight. Prabhupada said he wanted silence so he could do his work, and he told a little story about a woman whose tinkling bracelets disturbed her husband. The husband took one bangle away, but still he was disturbed by the ting, 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 tink, tink, tink. He took away another bangle and another until there was only one left. Then there was no more tink, tink, tink. Prabhupada specifically asked his secretaries not to gather and talk in the outer room. Remain always one, said Srila Prabhupada, and read books. Then there will be no noise. As soon as you become two, tink, tink, tink. That I don't want. It won't happen, said Tamal Krishna. If anyone comes to see me, I will go out of the apartment. Yes, said Srila Prabhupada. In this way arranged, it should remain always quiet and serene. These are your quarters, said Tamal Krishna. No one else should come. And we shall arrange for seeing our own men at a time, said Srila Prabhupada. But the principal should be silence. That will be all right. I will be free to work. Prabhupada continued to appreciate his new situation. The rooms were very well ventilated with plenty of sunlight. Other ISKCON buildings like the Bhaktivedanta Manor in London were very good, he said, but in most seasons he couldn't open the windows or doors because of the cold. You have to remain packed up, he said. In Detroit and London, you cannot open a window. But here in Bombay, the temperature was ideal, and the area outside Prabhupada's window was verdant. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Now I read from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 14, and it's text 13. I'll just read through the Sanskrit. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya.
Narayanam Namaskritya.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam.
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam.
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam.
Tato Jayamudirarit.
Tato Jayamudirarit.
Before reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nashcha Prayashu Bhatreshu.
Nashcha Prayashu Bhatreshu.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke.
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke.
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki.
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki.
By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. So this is the Sanskrit. Ekadashat prasangam nikritan bhaktir vyudaka Shrotad Skalana Navat Upayantopi Dukadam Pakandam Abhiyati. Please repeat. Ekada. Sometimes. Asat Prasangat. By association of non-devotees. Who are against the Vedic principles. And who manufacture different paths of religion. Nikritamati, whose intelligence has been brought to the abominable status of defying the authority of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vyudaka Shrota, into rivers without sufficient water. Skalanavat, like jumping. Upayata, from both sides. Api, although. Dukadam, giving distress. Pakandam, the atheistic path. Abhiyati, he approaches. Translation. Sometimes to mitigate distresses in this forest of the material world, the conditioned soul receives cheap blessings from atheists. He then loses all intelligence in their association. This is exactly like jumping in a shallow river. As a result, one simply breaks his head. He is not able to mitigate his sufferings from the heat, and in both ways he suffers. The misguided conditioned soul also approaches so-called sadhus and swamis who preach against the principles of the Vedas. He does not receive benefit from them, either in the present or in the future. Actually, could you take this away? Because it's kind of,
Yes.
thank you. Papa. Cheaters are always there to manufacture their own way of spiritual realization. To get some material benefit, the conditioned soul approaches these pseudo-sannyasis and yogis for cheap blessings, but he does not receive any benefit from them, either spiritual or material. In this age, there are many cheaters who show some jugglery and magic. They even create gold to amaze their followers, and their followers accept them as God. This type of cheating is very prominent in the Kali Yuga. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes the real guru in this way. Samsara davana lalita loka, chanaya karunya ganaganatvam, praptasya kalyana gunanavasya, vande guru shi charanam vrindam. The translation is the spiritual master receives the benediction from the ocean of mercy, just as a rain cloud pours water on the forest fire to extinguish it. So the spiritual master delivers this material afflicted world from the blazing fire of material existence. So Prabhupada says one should approach a guru who can extinguish the blazing fire of this material world, the struggle for existence. People want to be cheated, and therefore they go to yogis and swamis who play tricks, but tricks do not mitigate the miseries of material life. Even being able to manufacture gold is a criterion for becoming God. Then why not accept Krishna? So if being able to manufacture gold is a criterion for becoming God, then why not accept Krishna, the proprietor of the entire universe, wherein there are countless tons of gold? As mentioned before, the color of gold is compared to the will-o'-the-wisp or yellow stool. Therefore, one should not be allured by gold manufacturing gurus, but should sincerely approach a devotee like Jad Bharat. Jad Bharat instructed Rahugana Maharaj so well that the king was relieved from the bodily conception. One cannot become happy by accepting a false guru. A guru should be accepted as advised in Srimad Bhagavatam 11.3.21. Tasmat guru prapadyeta jigyasu shreya uttamam. One should approach a bona fide guru to inquire about the highest benefit of life. Such a guru is described as follows. Shabde pare chanishnatam. Such a guru does not manufacture gold or juggle words. He is well versed in the conclusions of Vedic knowledge. Vedaishta chavare ahameva vedya. He is freed from all material contamination and is fully engaged in Krishna's service. If one is able to obtain the dust of the lotus feet of such a guru, his life becomes successful. Otherwise, he is baffled both in this life and in the next. It's translation again. He then loses all sometimes he mitigates to mitigate the distresses in this forest of the material world. The conditioned soul receives cheap blessings from atheists. He then loses all intelligence in their association. This is exactly like jumping in a shallow river. As a result, one simply breaks his head. He is not able to mitigate his sufferings from the heat, and in both ways he suffers. The misguided conditioned soul also approaches so-called sadhus and swamis who preach against the principles of the Vedas. He does not receive benefit from them, either in the present or in the future. Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Vanchakalpatrubhishchankipasindubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Sukadev Goswami is elaborating on the teachings that Jad Bharat gave to King Rahugana, basically explaining the futility of existence in this material world. He mentions how the effect of receiving cheap blessings from atheists and being in their association is just like trying to jump in a river expecting some relief, but there's hardly any water in the river. It's very shallow, so he dives in and breaks his head. So it's such a pitiful situation, and that there's no hope of happiness in this world materially. Even if there is some happiness, so-called, it's not considered happiness because it's temporary, it's flickering. It brings joy, and then you have to look for some other thrill to keep the happiness, to sustain any form of happiness. Waiting for the weekend, oh no, it's Monday again, work, and so more suffering. Because this is there's always, without being connected with the Supreme Lord, then this is the condition of the soul in this world. He looks for the same happiness that he would get spiritually, which is his nature. He's trying to be in that environment of eternity, bliss, and full knowledge, but he's in a world of ignorance and misery, and everything being temporary, so it's not possible. And he's amongst people who are similarly trying to be happy in this way, which is always in vain for them also. And so becoming self-centered, they try and exploit the resources of others for their happiness. So Prabhupada says cheap blessings from atheists. So this can be in the form of like, being famous, like Raghunath saying yesterday, how, people are so famous, but they win so many so-called friends, and who require who are after these hoping to get some blessing from these famous people, or they may have so many followers on Facebook and all this kind of thing. But when it comes to a time when they're suffering and in need of some support, then there's no one around. No one's interested. They're too busy seeking their self-centered pursuits. So this is such a sad situation. So in this material world, the conditioned soul is always the loser. Everything he does just only serves the purpose to bind him more to this miserable world. because every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. So there's so many chain reactions which prepare his next body even in this life, in the present life. His next body is being prepared by the activities he's performing in this life, just in this, only in a subtle form. His presence, this subtle body will take him to the gross manifestation of that, the fruit of that, those activities, where the body will give him the happiness he deserves and this distress that he's due to his past activities. So that's why Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita 3:9, Yagya tat kamano nyacha lokayam karmabandhana tadartam karma kuntaya mukta sangha samachara. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu, Krishna, has to be performed. It's like it's a law of nature. So otherwise, work causes bondage in this world. So as long as we don't make those sacrifices for Krishna, then the more entangled, the only other option is that we just become more entangled and prolong our stay in this material world. And especially in Kali Yuga, it's not the place for a gentleman, Prabhupada used to say. One should just treat it like a toilet, do one's business and get out. So it's painting a bleak picture. There's no hope, one's continually bound up, just like in a web. As soon as an insect touches a web, it's stuck. And the more it struggles to get out, the more entangled it becomes. So this is the material, the plight of the materialist or the conditioned soul in this world. He tries so much to be happy, tries this way, tries that way, it causes more problems. One solution just brings another set of problems. So in this way, it seems like there's no way out. It's like groping in the dark, not knowing where one's going. You trip over something and hurt oneself, or that's the mindset. The mindset is there, just groping around, not knowing who one is, the purpose one exists, what one's purpose of existence is, and who's the true object of adoration and worship. People like to worship footballers and celebrities and so on. Famous people because of their wealth, maybe beauty, strength, education, or even, Prabhupada says here, so-called renunciation. But as Prabhupada says also, that there's no real fruit, no real benefit from their association. And it's the cheaters wanted to be cheated. The cheaters, Prabhupada says that the people go there because they want to be cheated. It's like people who used to go to Prabhupada for blessings and for their daughter and so on. But they don't. The type of blessings they wanted was just to have their son successful in their education, their daughter cured from some disease, and so on. And Prabhupada would say sometimes, I bless your son to dress in tilak and sika and be a brahmachari in the temple. So with this, they wouldn't consider that a blessing at all because they were so engrossed in their material life. They weren't really wanting the way out, but they're using the guru to try and to facilitate them. So seeing this, there's many people that become gurus and take advantage of this market of giving blessings, and they become very rich by it. And like Prabhupada saying that they can produce gold and so on like this, and to wow them, wow their materialistic aspirations. This person can satisfy me. And in this way, people also see politicians and hoping, but giving them their vote so that they can. This not the past one, but the next one. Maybe he will fulfill my desires in this material world. So it's less of a forest fire for them. So. So, but the soul doesn't realize how his nature is one of servitude, that of not enjoyment. It's not his condition, his nature to be able to just to by his manipulation be able to enjoy in this material world. He doesn't know his position is one of subordination, because he is the controlled. He's the predominated. He's not the dominator. Predominator. Excuse me. Only when one comes in contact with a devotee can one have any clue how as to what one's real purpose and real self is, so that one can know how to satisfy that self. Because the conditioned souls in the bodily conception of life, then he's thinking he's the body, and that his purpose in life is trying to satisfy the body. But this is just like trying to satisfy a garment, thinking oneself the garment instead of the body. You're cleaning the garment and making it fresh and so on, and hoping to be happy by it. I mean, one has to be clean, of course, but seeking that one as one's total source of happiness, then it's ridiculous. It's just like, and also this example is given like the hand trying to enjoy the food. It may mash the food in its hands and so on, and try and absorb it through the skin. But if it continues that for days and days, it's not going to get any real enjoyment. And eventually it's just going to wither and die, because his purpose of the hand is to feed the stomach. And from there, then the nutrients, the minerals, everything that's there, it's spread around the body to nourish it. So that's the natural way of doing things. Excuse me. Similarly, by one doesn't water a plant by nourish a plant by watering the leaves. One has to water the root, and by nature's arrangement, the trees, twigs, the trunk, the tree, the twigs, the leaves, everything will be nourished. It won't wither. So, in the forest fire of the material world, the soul is withering in its heat, not knowing how to nourish himself as the spirit soul, having no clue that he's the spiritual being. So the only way by which he can have any clue of this is by meeting a devotee. And a devotee is always a winner. He never loses. Nothing he does goes in vain. So this seems to be too good to be true, especially being in this material existence for so long. And this is because he has knowledge. And in Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada, Krishna says, Raja Vidya Rajaguyam Pavitram Paramamidam. This knowledge is very pure and sublime. So the more contact with it, you become pure and sublime. And it works just like a medicine. You take that medicine, you don't know, you may not know what is in it, but you find the effect is there that it'll bring about some cure. So similarly, we don't necessarily have to understand everything we read or even understand the mantra that we chant, but both will have the effect of helping us become, of purifying us and bringing about a more sublime consciousness. And the results bear that they give are eternal. They never go away. So it's always a win-win situation. Also, as one chants the holy name, one's vision is purified, one's intelligence is purified, so one can see things more as they are, and upheavals in one's life or any interaction even, one can see it as an opportunity given to progress, to make another step further in his spiritual development. And things are happening for days full of activities and events or happenings. So how we respond to them is a way by which we can take another step closer to the Supreme Pure, Krishna, the most sublime. And we use the everything that comes our way in this material world as a means by which we can perform a sacrifice to Krishna. Whatever we eat, whatever we offer, like it says in the previous verse, Yat Kuroshi Yat Yashnasi Yat Yuhosi Dasi Yat Tapasyasi Kuntaya Yat Kurushva Madapanam. O son of Kunti, all that you do, all that you eat, all that you offer and give away, as well as all austerities that you may perform, should be done as an offering to me. So by having that attitude towards everything we possess, then as a means of pleasing the supreme pure, as a way of plugging into that spiritual energy of eternity, bliss, and knowledge, then we're putting everything to its proper use. In this way, Prabhupada, he wasn't concerned whether he was. It didn't really matter to him whether he was in a palatial apartment or in a mud hut. He's just as satisfied because he was situated in his his consciousness was situated as a servant of Krishna, so he didn't become possessive in any way. So in this way, so we may come across difficulties and so-called obstacles and situations which may seem very traumatic, but if one can see oneself as a way of becoming victorious and rather than maintain a victim mentality, then one can be benedicted with the best thing there is, because it doesn't. Krishna. It's said, if you know Krishna, then you know everything, because he's in the heart. He can give us everything that we need. He can make all sorts of arrangements. So to have him as our best friend, as he is, he's already doing his part in giving this amazing material world, so beautiful, and especially on a sunny day in Scotland. And so the July is the most floral month of the year, and so beautiful, and so many arrangements there to, to growing our own food and seeing it grow and seeing the produce. It's such a nice arrangement to live simply and using it in his service, everything that we have in his service. So he's already doing his part. So it's our duty to reciprocate. That's the way of relationships. If you want a nice, loving relationship, a nice, intimate relationship, then there has to be some reciprocation. And as the intimacy grows and grows and grows, and that's how it is with Krishna. The more we call on his name, the more we read about him, and the more we know how to please him. In the most insignificant way to some major accomplishment. It's a way of becoming happy by a way of becoming happy, happiness that comes from him, which can know no bounds. It can be in a kirtan, counting away, and you're thinking it can't get any better. He's feeling so much bliss. So this is just Krishna giving us a glimpse of the happiness that we had when we're situated on real spiritual identity. So it's not going to come cheap. To perform the sacrifices, make the sacrifices, and be successful in overcoming so many unwanted habits. Unwanted because they're wanted by the body, because it gives the body pleasure, temporary, but unwanted by the soul because it just binds him more to this material world, binds him to bodily consciousness. Says how one who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he is obligated is in the renounced order of life. Not he and he is the true mystic, not he who lights no fire and performs no work. So the true mystic aren't these sannyasis and yogis who are in the market for giving cheap blessings and producing just a bit of ash or dust, gold in their hands. But those who are unattached to fame and wealth and so on, and they just work as they're obligated, just whatever Krishna wants, and that's their satisfaction. For those who are advanced in spiritual life, their mood is Ashla Shiva Paravatam Panashtamam Adashnan Mama Atam Karotava Yatatata Vitata Lampato Prana Natastu Swevana Paraha. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so, even if he hands me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is my worshipful Lord unconditionally. So this is the language of love. Someone who's so in love with Krishna, like in the material world, in the spiritual world, sorry, they don't love Krishna because he's God. He's not sitting there on a throne in the Goloka Vrindavan. He's not got any throne to sit on. He doesn't want one there. He prefers the village kind of setting and just playing with the cowherd boys and trying to get a sneak, trying to escape sometimes to be with gopis and wanting the loving breath of his mother Yashoda. He's not interested in awe and reverence. And they all love, and the residents of Vrindavan, this is Vrindavan. And so they all love him because he's the best person they could ever wish to meet. And that's why they love him. It's not because he's so great in any way. Although he kills demons and like he lifts up Govardhan Hill and with his little pinky but the residents, the cowherd men, they were helping Krishna hold it up, so they're thinking they're helping Krishna to do so. But Krishna just lets it down a little bit, and then they just get afraid and think, oh. Or Madhu Mangal, Krishna's cowherd friend. You think you lifted up hill? You lifted up just by my Brahminical power. That's the only reason you. So in this way, they have so many loving dealings with each other. This is the same Krishna that we can associate with, but we can't. But because in our conditioned state, we may take that cheaply. So we have to go through the hoops to convince Krishna that if he gives himself, we're gonna appreciate him for who he is, and not just want cheap blessings from him or take advantage of him as something less than what he is. And though there's those who give us with these real blessings that help us come closer to Krishna. Like this, what to speak of Prabhupada. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have anything, any connection at all with those spiritual personalities who, like Tulsi Devi, it's just just by circumambulating her, one can be purified of so many sins from so many lifetimes. But we wouldn't have known anything about her if it wasn't for Prabhupada. He performed the first miracle, which is that he took these conditioned souls that were so bent on trying to be happy in one way or another in this material world, and transformed them into, like I said, men of the spiritual world, into souls that look like they come from Vaikuntha. When like we've been in the lockdown for a long time, and I used to see how being in the temple for a long period of time before just going into the city was could be such a culture shock that people looking grey and rushing and mask and makeup and not happy with not satisfied with their own body, just being one advert there after another, convincing people to follow their senses, basically. My dear Arjuna, a man who does not follow this prescribed Vedic system of sacrifice certainly leads a life of sin. For a person delighting only in the senses lives in vain, because the sense gratification is always temporary, as we explained before. So, not to dwell on that too much. But Prabhupada, he gave us worship of Tulsi Devi, the worship of Srimad Bhagavatam, and all the others, Bhagavad Gita and so on, and transformed these conditioned souls who were, as he's saying, less than Shudra, being meat eaters and so on, into Brahmins, saintly persons, who then in turn become guides for souls after them, who come after them seeking shelter. And these are personalities that don't give cheap blessings, but give the equivalent of Chintamani, valuable stones, but in the form of the holy name, in the form of Krishna Katha, hearing about Krishna and the knowledge about Krishna, and how we can get to that spiritual world where every step is a dance, every word is a song, and every day is a festival. So wouldn't it be nice to be there? So if we can help each other get there. That's why the association of devotees is so important. Because by this is the key to everything else that's there to offer in our way, to progress in the path back home, back to Godhead. So, and in this way, every one of us are guru, in the sense that we're each trying to make one's progress, facilitates one's progress. We all have our fortes, and some may have fortes where strengths, where others have weaknesses. So in this way, we become compatible, and together go back home, back to Godhead. So just one nice pastime I heard, how in the cowherd boys, they were snacking. Like in the spiritual world, there's only play. There's only play. There's one person who said, I heard how we don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing. So we don't have that carefreeness, and only spirit Krishna consciousness can give that. And so so they were going out with the cows and allowing them to pasture, and they were playing with Krishna and snacking and so on. But it came to lunch that time, and they had hardly anything in their plate in their tiffins or their lunch packs, and they're saying things like, "My belly is as empty as my tiffin. I'm so hungry. My lunch pack hasn't got even a morsel that would take away a little fraction of my hunger." And so in reciprocation, because they know that Krishna wants to please them. They're not saying these things because they want to satisfy their senses. They want to increase the ras. They want to increase the pleasure of Krishna, that he'll be happy seeing them happy. So he said, no problem. And so he filled up all their lunch packs and mystically with so many nice feast. And they did so much so that when they ate one thing and just so satisfied, it would reappear and they'd have it again. And so it's unlimited, and to the point where they were just lying on the ground with their bellies full. They've got nothing else to do in life. So this is how nice it is in the spiritual world. And with Krishna, there's only eternity, bliss, and knowledge. On that note, I'll just stop there. Any questions or comments?
Yes, actually, comment in a question from Laura. Hare Krishna, she says, Hare Krishna, thank you for giving class. It's much easier to lower our consciousness with our activities and the association we have. How can we elevate our consciousness no matter what we do?
Well, it starts with chanting Hare Krishna with attention, without distraction. If we can come to a point of offenseless chanting, then we'll have some experience of that. So what was the question again?
So, it's much easier to lower our consciousness with our activities and the association we have. How can we elevate our consciousness no matter what we do?
Well, in the material world, it's like performing, it's Maya's domain. So to perform this devotional service in this world is always an upward climb. Like Prabhupada would describe it as going up an escalator in rush hour where everyone's coming down. So hard. But in the association of devotees, having a morning program, chanting Hare Krishna with a view to really absorbing one's consciousness, that this is none that we're calling on Krishna. He's coming before us in His holy name, and to give all awe and respect to that. All these the means and the end. But Prabhupada would say when you go back to the spiritual world, it's easy. It's the atmosphere is just one of devotion to Krishna. So it's so much easier. Here in this material world, it's an atmosphere of aversion to Krishna, envious of him being the controlling enjoyer, because the soul himself wants to control. He wants to enjoy. So in this way, it's incompatible, almost. But the more our consciousness is in Krishna, the more we develop a consciousness where our consciousness is in Vrindavan, the more we can maintain that by purifying ourselves. And that purification has to take place, otherwise it's not possible. So we have to work on our anarthas and our unwanted thoughts, words, and that thoughts that create unwanted deeds and unwanted words, and what speak of past karma, the seeds of desire that have been planted in our hearts for so many millennia in this material world. So we've got a lot of work to do. But the more we stay on that path, then it's just a matter of time. But the less we do so, then the more we prolong our stay in this material world. So we don't want that. So to take advantage of the association of devotees as much as possible, those who inspire and encourage us onto the path, encourage us to give us that knowledge, encouragement that makes surrender seem quite easy. Actually, it's just having that knowledge and perspective. Be given that perspective, then it's like the snake. The snake what seems like a snake becomes a rope. You see something long in the grass, and if someone tells you it's a snake, you become fearful. If someone tells you it's a rope, when it's actually rope, then it's one. There's no need for fear. So the Maya can make so many things seem like the snake. And there's the snake of material desires that she likes to feed. But the more association we have with devotees that help us to see what's maybe fearful, but see it as a means of something to be taken advantage of in our service. Not that we take advantage of a snake, that's maybe the wrong analogy for that, but what seems is like in the dark we don't see very much, but when someone switches the light, then everything can be seen clearly. So this is what the association of devotees can afford us, what speak of Prabhupada's association and his followers and disciples practicing strictly, and the knowledge, they come to a point where they can see the spiritual world in their hearts even. So they're not troubled by what goes on in this material world. Prabhupada had bombs falling around him, but he wasn't, from in the war, but he wasn't disturbed at all. He carried on taking his prasadam. He knew that it's Krishna's arrangement. If Krishna wants to kill me, no one can save me. If Krishna wants to save me, no one can kill me. So what control do I have on the situation? So in this way, we can be carefree, and Krishna will take care. The more we take advantage of his teachings and see how it does help us, then the more we can see, well, there's nothing to fear. There's nothing to be worried about. So trying to end on that positive note. So thank you very much. I've been a bit over time. I didn't think I could be able to speak this long. So
Laura replies, thank you, Mother Vrinda. And she says, always endeavoring to hold on to Prabhupada's story.
thank you, Lord. Srila Prabhupada ki jai,
Yeah.
ISKCON Guru Vrinda ki jai,
Yeah.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Yeah. Srimad Devi Dasi ki jai.
Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.